My only question of substance goes to the incident at Mildura with the two 737s that had the Met forecasting issue and then ran short on fuel. We've spoken to ATSB about their internal inquiries. I'd be interested to know from our services perspective as the provider of that information, what you're doing internally to learn from that incident to prevent it occurring.
Certainly, Senator. If I can clarify the last point first, the lateral proximity of the 737 to the parachuting area reduced to 2,100 metres.
Okay.
With regards to the Mildura incident, I think I answered a question last, estimates from Senator Xenophon in relation to the fact that our inquiries were continuing in relation to the diversion of two aircraft, Qantas and a Virgin aircraft, from being inbound to Adelaide, where unforecast fog eventuated, to Mildura. So we've undertaken our own internal investigation, and we're also an active participant in the ATSB's investigation into that incident.
Sorry, Mr Hood, can you just clarify also, not only was there the unforecast fog, but the conditions at Mildura also deteriorated below landing minima, unforecast?
That's correct, Senator. So I think within about 30 minutes of the Virgin aircraft diverting from inbound to Adelaide to Mildura, the aircraft requested the weather for Mildura from our air traffic controller and was advised that the weather was broken at 3,400 feet, and that may have formed the basis for the aircraft's decision to divert to Mildura. The TAF at the time, the terminal area forecast, had a tempo period which indicated you required 60 holding for Mildura, but the conditions when requested of ATC was still broken cloud at 3,400 feet. As we know, the Mildura AWIS, the Aerodrome Weather Information Service, which is jointly owned, I suppose, by the airport, by Air Services Australia and by the Bureau of Meteorology, was unserviceable. The way in which aircraft could have, I suppose, derived updated information about the weather at Mildura could have been via request to ATC through the AERIS, which is the automatic en route information service. So there's one available at Mount William where you dial up the VHF and it provides you with that information, or in fact through ACARS, which is the airline system. So they've got their own system where they can request the information from their respective operation centres in Qantas and Virgin to be provided with the latest information.
But how long did he hold for when he got there?
Some significant, I believe around about 30 minutes, Senator. But
was he brain dead or something? I mean, why wouldn't he have got going?
So
go to Walmer or somewhere?
So that's the fourth information provision, of course, was through the aircraft itself that had landed. So the Qantas aircraft landed ahead of the Virgin aircraft, and the Qantas aircraft obviously provided the Virgin aircraft with some information on the CTAF frequency. Of course, we don't have access to that information.
So the Qantas aircraft landing, was it legal?
I beg your pardon, Senator?
Was the Qantas landing legal? Did it have sight?
I'm not familiar with precisely what the cloud base and the visibility criteria were, and the ATSB investigation will come out with that.
Anyhow, back to you, Senator Fawcett.
Yes,
so in respect to your question, I suppose the point of clarification from the Air Services perspective is, do we continue to provide continuous weather updates to aircraft? And in sectors like Mildura, you have Broken Hill, you have Swan Hill, for example, all of which you may have aircraft inbound to. And as you know, those sites that have a Met man, a Bureau of Met officer on the ground, may be originating multiple species. You know, every 5 or 10 minutes you might have the weather changing. And that tends to happen a lot with thunderstorm activity and also with changing visibility and fog. So what you are likely to be faced with as the air traffic controller is several changing weather scenarios on your particular sector. And so the passing of updated weather information to every aircraft or every destination becomes impractical. At all times it was available to the pilot to request that information of ATC, but specifically we did not provide an update on the weather at Mildura to the two 737s. And in our investigation we had 10 findings and 2 recommendations, and we're certainly acting on the 2 recommendations, and we're also participating with the ATSB next month, I believe, in the meeting with CASA, the airlines, and the ATSB in relation to the clarification of who was responsible. And of course, the other thing we don't have access to is what did they get from their own company. You know, what did they get in terms of ACAR's messages from Qantas and/or Virgin.
Sure. So are you able to table those findings and recommendations for the committee?
I'm sorry, Senator?
Are you able to table those findings and recommendations for the committee?
Certainly, Senator. Not today. I'm happy to provide the
Sure.
Senator a copy with our internal investigation.
Yep, no, that'd be great. Thank you. Thanks, Stu.
Chair, I've got some supplementary questions directly on the Mildura incident.
Just be quick.
I'll be very quick, Chair. So the Mr. Hood or Ms. Day, the ATSB, in its interim report into this incident, reads in part that information about the actual weather conditions at Mildura was not available to the crew from the Automated Weather Information Service, AWIS, as the aircraft approached Mildura. Goes on to say, due to the AWIS link from the Automated Weather Station to the very high frequency omnidirectional radio range, which was operated by Air Services Australia, being unserviceable, does Air Services agree with this statement by the ATSB?
Certainly, as I said, the ownership of the AWIS sits with three parties. The Weather Information Service itself sits with the Bureau of Meteorology. The line that takes it from the Bureau to the navigation aid belongs to the airport, and we own the navigation aid which broadcasts the information. The navigation aid, the NDB, was out of service and had been NOTAM so 5 days prior.
So what was unserviceable? Was it the automatic weather station or the omnidirectional radio range link? Which one?
But my understanding is that the non-directional beacon, the navigation aid which broadcasts the weather, was out of service.
Okay, and that's the responsibility of Air Services?
That's correct, Senator.
Okay. So how long had that link at Mildura been not operational?
In my understanding, Senator, it was NOTAM 5 days prior to the incident.
Right.
Whether it was previously NOTAM, I would have to take on notice.
If you could, and is it operating now?
Senator, that navigation aid has been decommissioned. The AWIS at Mildura is now owned by the airport and was commissioned broadcasting on a VHF frequency in mid-November. And my understanding it's operating...
But you don't have responsibility for it anymore?
No, that's correct, Senator.
You used to, but not now?
It used to be joint responsibility. Now the airport owns and operates the facility in conjunction with the Bureau of Meteorology.
And is there any oversight or regulatory framework to ensure that weather information can be accurately transmitted to crews, considering the many parties that seem to be responsible?
Senator, the Aeronautical Information Publication, which is I suppose it's the pilot's Bible in relation to how information is disseminated, and basically it's an interpretation of the rules for laymen. And one of the recommendations made in our investigation is that that needed some clarification, specifically in relation to the unavailability of an AWIS and what the air traffic controller and the pilot's responsibilities are if the AWIS is unserviceable.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.